Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Thursday. It's Daryl here. It is bright and freaking early, man. You know it. It's 3:30 a.m. right on the dot here in Connecticut on the East Coast. This is a hard video to make. I already made this video. Swear to God, I made this video last Sunday. It was actually last Saturday afternoon. I was going to download it last Sunday, 1 week before Mother's Day. And I chickened out. I actually erased it. I don't even have it anymore. I made this video and I erased it and I downloaded, I think, one or two other videos in its place. So I've been putting this off. The reason I'm making this video is mostly for myself. This is almost like an NA meeting for me. It's important that people like me in recovery never forget that I am a recovering addict. If I do, the moment I start thinking myself as cured, as normal, as not dealing with addiction, and I tell myself it's okay, I could take one pill or one Percocet or have one drink. It's okay. It's been 16 and a half years. I'm normal now. It's over. I'm cured. And that's the beginning of the end. And I know this. I've seen time after time in NA meetings. So this is almost like an NA meeting for me. Because this is a lot of times what happens in NA meetings, where you talk about very private, embarrassing things, things that you're ashamed of, mostly. Another reason I'm talking about this is I wish I had pictures of me, what I looked like 16 and a half, 7. I believe this occurred on Mother's Day, May of 2006. About 6 months before I got clean and sober for good. And after I tell you about this day, this Mother's Day, you'll know why. It was an all-time low for me and for my family. But it was a turning point. And I look back and it was a terrible day, but it had to happen. And it happened in a bad way, but it had to come out. Okay, let me start at the beginning here. At this point, I was a full-blown heroin and crack cocaine addict every single day. Like I told you guys before, the first thing I would do is I'd wait till the package store opened at 8:30 to get a half pint of Jägermeister to calm my nerves, to go down and get a bundle of heroin, which is 10 bags, just to get me normal. And this was every day. There was no more high. And whatever money I could beg, borrow, or steal throughout the day, then I would get crack, and then I'd get more heroin, then I'd get more crack. The whole day, 24/7, was focused on money, drugs, full time. That's all, and to the extent that you just wouldn't believe that's all I focused on constantly, above everything else, above death, above sex, above food, above sleeping, above everything. That was my focus. That's the focus of an addict. It's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine what I looked like at this time. Almost every single tooth, every one of my teeth was rotted out to the gum line. Every single tooth. I didn't have one full tooth left in my mouth. I was so ashamed. The only time I wasn't ashamed to smile was when I was using heroin. Then you don't really care about anything. So it just became it got worse and worse. The more that I hurt myself, the worse I looked, the more I needed to use the heroin. The more I used the heroin, the more it damaged me, the more it was a vicious circle. And then there's plenty of other factors that played into it. This is the thing. You need it every single day as soon as you wake up. It's a morning drug. You need it in the morning. Like medicine. It's medicine. The problem is when you get to a holiday, like when there's certain days, even as an addict, you have to be with your family. Christmas, Mother's Day, Easter, Thanksgiving. And I remember I would start getting so tense like 2 or 3 weeks before the holiday even came. And it would always go like this. I'd always tell myself, I'd make sure I'd get a couple $100, no matter how I had to get it, so I could get extra bags. So I would have bags that morning so I could function. And good, it wasn't about getting high. It was just about being able to walk and talk and look relatively normal, even though all my teeth were missing. I cut my own hair for 2 decades. I weighed about 85 pounds more than I weigh now. Sometimes when you're using drugs, you eat and then you don't eat, And when you do eat a day or two later, you don't eat for 24 hours, 36 hours. But when you do eat, you eat cheap garbage. You just stuff yourself full of the cheapest garbage you could find. And then you don't eat. And that kind of, some people get skinny, some people put on weight. I was one of the people that put on weight. Not all addicts are skinny. Some are very bad shape, overweight. And that was me. I would binge eat at other times. Like when I was using heroin, I would binge eat. When I was using crack, I wouldn't eat. And that cycle just made my body even worse condition. There was no nutrition whatsoever. My morning breakfast was Jägermeister. Okay, let's get to that day. So, as usual, I got about 10. The day before, I got an extra 10 bags. But this happened every single time. I always did all the bags that I had for the next day so that I could function. Of course, I used them all night long. So 6 a.m. rolls around, I haven't slept, or I've nodded out all night, high all night, and now I'm crashing, and now it's Christmas or Thanksgiving, and I'm in even more trouble because I used everything, I used all my money, and I have to see my family in 4 or 6 hours, and I haven't slept. I've been up for days, and I'm just getting worse and worse by the minute, by the hour, crashing. That was every holiday for me. It was a living freaking nightmare, man. It's worse than death. I can't think of anything worse than it's a living nightmare. Every second of every minute. Okay, so that morning, Mother's Day morning, I made an excuse, of course, to go over to it was Mother's Day. We were supposed to go out and eat. Me, my mother, my stepfather, my sister, and her husband. About 9 in the morning, I go over and wake my mother up on Mother's Day. Can I talk to you? I think this is the excuse I gave her. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't have enough money. I had to pay bills. You think I could borrow a little money so when we go out to eat in a little while, I won't look like a total bum. Mom, I don't want to look like, I don't want to look like that guy that doesn't have any money. Yeah, that's what I did. When I took that money, it was probably about $50. And it was about 9 in the morning, and I went down to find my dealer. I left my house, and my mom was okay. And my mom loved me, and all mothers love their sons and daughters, and they believe them, and they're just trying to do the best for their child, but it's just enabling, really. And I went down to find my dealer. The problem was, on holidays, this happened a lot, and this just made me so much more anxiety on these days, that my dealer wouldn't be around because it was a holiday, because he was going to see his mother or going to, dealers actually have mothers and go to Christmas and all that stuff. So I couldn't find my dealer. Now, here's the thing. I've talked about this in other videos. I never go home. An addict will never go home with the money. Instead, I went and bought another drug. I went and bought crack. Now, crack, for me personally, when I'm in the withdrawals from heroin, it's the worst time to take crack because the crack will push any opioids that are still on the receptors. My brain will push them off, and it'll just occupy the receptors, and I'll get even sicker. It's not like a usual crack buzz. When I was getting sick and I used a stimulant, it makes me even sicker. I don't know if it's like this with all addicts, but it was like that with me. So instead of going home and just waiting 20 minutes or just parking somewhere and waiting 20 minutes or a half hour, an hour until I could find another dealer, I couldn't do that. I had to have any drug, any buzz right then and there. Even if it made me feel worse, even if I knew it was going to ruin my day and make me feel 100 times worse, I had to buy a drug, any drug. Makes no sense at all. I started throwing up right in my car seat. I went to instant withdrawals as soon as I started smoking the crack. Now I have no money, no chance of getting heroin, and I'm getting sicker by the minute. And I'm even worse off now because I used the excuse with my mother. I can't go back for money. I went to a local dive bar that usually serves, you guys know these bars. They serve alcoholics. They're open almost all day and night. What bar is open Mother's Day at 9 in the morning? And I went in there and sat down, and I think I had $2 and change left, and I ordered one beer. And I watched that clock, and I just got sicker, and I felt sicker by the minute. The withdrawals getting worse. Sitting with people that just have no hope, alcoholics, And I watched that clock because I was supposed to meet my family at noon. And I just watched the clock get closer and closer. And I ran out of money. So I started begging the alcoholics sitting around me for money. Eventually, somebody took pity on me, gave me $1 here, $5. So I'm begging drunks in a bar, in a dive bar for money. On Mother's Day, watching the clock and knowing my family's driving to the restaurant right now. They're sitting down right now. They're wondering where I am right now. And I'm sitting in a bar with no money, getting sick from withdrawals, and I can't go there because I look so bad I could barely walk. I throw up, I drink half a beer and I throw it up. That's how my Mother's Day started, and it got worse. So it got to noon. It got a little afternoon, and I knew that, okay, now by 12:30, they're probably going to say, well, Daryl's not coming. Even though I went and borrowed money from my mother that morning so that I could have money, geez, Mom, I don't want to look like a bum. Could I borrow some money? And I don't even show up on Mother's Day. All right. So I just keep that. It was such a terrible feeling sitting in that hopeless bar, in this dark, dank, smelly bar with all these depressing people, and just watching that clock right in front of me, knowing where my family is, and I can't be with them, and knowing what they're thinking and saying. So the time passed, and it just got worse in that bar. I owed people. I went back. You have to make amends, to 12 steps. I believe it's the 9th step where you make amends. And I actually found those people that I borrowed money from, $5 here, $5 there. I paid those people back. I paid, there was a package store that fronted me liquor that day, I think. I paid him $20 back. I paid that's one thing I'm proud of, is I made amends to everybody that I wronged on that day, 17 years ago. Okay, now it gets worse. It's about 2 o'clock, so now I know my family's going home after the restaurant, eating without me, wondering where the hell I was. And so I have to go get more money. I have to get my dope, which I never got. Okay, my dealer should be home by now. Great, I got to get more money. I show up at my mother's house, and she's upset, very upset, between angry and sad, and, I could see all these emotions on her face right away. We went outside. I remember we were sitting out on the front porch, so my stepfather couldn't hear. And, she knows. Deep down she knows, but I think she's just willing to believe any excuse I'll tell her. And I can't remember the excuse I told her. I just felt worse and worse. And this is what I did. I told her, this is the first time I ever told her. This was when I was 40 years old. I was molested from the time I was 10 years old till I was about 15. That's the first time I told her. On Mother's Day, sitting on that front porch, after I didn't show up for Mother's Day brunch, sitting there, I said, guess what? Guess what? You know why I'm so messed up? This is what your boyfriend did to me. And I was always afraid they wouldn't believe me, but one of the things was he had a deformity on his man parts, a very bizarre deformity, and I knew that. I'd seen it firsthand, so I had proof. And I'm sure I said it right there and then, describing, her cop, the boyfriend from years. This is, she broke up with him years, decades, probably when I was about 16 or 17, when I was about 18 maybe, years before that. But I told her all about it, and she started crying. She believed me. I think, and looking back, I think the reason I told her was just because I wanted sympathy, and I just wanted more drugs, was the honest truth. I just wanted her to give me more money, even at that point, is the reason I told her, just so she'd feel sorry for me and give me more money. That's the most pathetic thing of this whole story. The good part of this story is, my family believed me. My little sister, all 5 feet tall. She's about 5 feet tall, 5'1", about 105 pounds. She went and found that guy when she found out my mother's ex-boyfriend, the cop, and threatened to end his life. My brave little sister. That makes me happy. Makes me want to cry right now. life now is better than ever. I take my mother out to lunch, to breakfast at least twice a week. You know, my relationship with my mother has never been better. Um, I see her almost every other day, and we go out to eat, and we talk about all this stuff. We talk about, how things were back then, and I see how grateful, how incredibly she couldn't have any better gift than to have her son back again, like I am now. And I'm so grateful that I could spend this time with her, because our time on earth is very short, and I knew that, and I know there would come a day when she wouldn't be here anymore, and that worried me when I was using, that I didn't want to spend the rest of our time on this earth with me high. And I'm so thankful that I've spent the last 16 and a half years clean and sober, and being able to share that with my mother and make amends and have a good relationship with her. So all the Mother's Day since then have been incredible. And by the way, I give my mother, of course, I take her out to eat, and I give her a card and flowers on Mother's Day. But on my anniversary every year, October 23rd, 2006, the day I got clean, every year she gives me a card. I'm gonna cry now. To this day, she's still, 16 years later, she'll give me another one this year. Knock on wood, I hope. Saying how she's so proud of me every year. She never forgets my day. I love my mother. Recovery is possible. You have a good Mother's Day.